Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. I got my buddy Hazel in this conversation today with me, and we're going to talk about the contrast of what it's like Portland versus Birmingham, Alabama. So hi Hazel!
Hi, Jazz.
So just a little background, Hazel is another one of my friends from Portland. We went to elementary school, middle school together, and high school partly. So it's going to start out with another story from Portland, and then we'll see how she's doing nowadays. So hi Hazel.
Hello, everybody. Well, like she said, I met Jasmine. Well, I know her by so many names, but I met her in elementary school. She actually lived like literally the next street over from me, and we became friends fast. So yeah, I went to elementary, middle school, and then high school. And I think I left my junior year of high school, and I came to Alabama to try to go to school for a year. Did not work out. So I ended up going back to Portland and graduated from David Douglas with all of my peers, all my classmates, people that I grew up with. So I don't want to keep saying but I guess we're going to talk about like some contrast between Portland, Oregon, and being in Birmingham, Alabama. Like, you want
What
to
are some
know,
of your
like,
experiences? Like, I know that right now it's a total uproar, and I want to remind everybody my channel is not political. I will totally delete any comment that is derogatory, negative, mean, or political. This is just us discussing our experiences as people
okay.
and as individuals. And I personally just think there could be a really big contrast of how we're seeing in Oregon versus how you're seeing in Alabama. So since I personally have not traveled to Alabama recently or anything like that, I just wanted to kind of know, like, what has your experience been? Like, how are you feeling with all this uproar and just, yeah, give us a little bit about your feelings.
Well, for me, it's been different. I think what has helped is the fact that pretty much everybody's supposed to be on lockdown, so just not being like in the midst of it too much. But the fact is, you still can't escape it because you got so many platforms as far as like social media. Just even something as simple as going to the grocery store. Like, when everything first started, like the tension, like it was unbelievably crazy. Like, it was a lot of tension. Like, I just felt awkward, like going places, like people were staring at me. And like, for me, I was born in the South, but I wasn't raised in the South. So I was raised with Southern roots, but at the same time, I had Northwestern experiences. And the way people parent, the way people live, it's much different. Like, I guess you would say in Alabama, there's more conservatives here. And it's definitely a Bible Belt. Like, everything here is family oriented and built up on like pretty much religion. In Portland, it was complete opposite because there's a lot more liberals in Portland and people that just like, oh no, pro this, pro that, or whatever. So I think for me, like, my experiences are because I kind of got roots from both places. So being in a predominantly white school growing up in every, elementary, middle, and high school, like literally, Jasmine, we could count how many
We
black
did.
students
Jasmine and
was
I counted. I believe it's 10. By the time we hit
right.
high school, I think we had 10.
And
And we're not
I
going to
knew
name
all
them
10.
all. We know them all, and we're still friends
Right.
with some
First
of
and
them.
last name, like first and last name, every single black person. So for the most part, like, I guess I would say, like, when I was in Portland, I really didn't experience, I mean, if I was the black kid, I can't say I always felt like the black kid. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't like I felt awkward. And then I think too, people that were kind of like, okay, I'm a bigot, whatever, you kind of knew it. A lot of people weren't secretive about it. Like, they didn't hide their dressing or the way they felt or whatever. It was just what it is. Because, in our high school was so broken up in like little cliques. Like, you had the jocks and, just like a typical high school or whatever. And me, I've always been free spirited. So I hung out with everybody. I didn't really care where you came from. And I'm not going to say that I don't see color, because that would be stupid to say that you don't obviously see color, because you do. You notice that you're a different
But you
skin
don't
tone.
like my pretty shirt? You don't see color? I like my shirt.
I do. I see your lovely yellow shirt. So it's like, you definitely see color, but at the same time, I wasn't in an environment where I was raised, even from coming from the South, where I was supposed to fear or have any type of biased opinions about the person of a different race. Now, was I warned and told stories, and do I read and understand history? Yes, I do. So I understood that there's still that line or whatever. But being in Portland, because being a minority there, literally, because in Birmingham, Alabama, there's way more Black people than it is in Portland, Oregon. Now it's kind of a, you know, melting pot in Portland, but it was when we were growing up, definitely nowhere near. So I didn't have a chance to, or even thought about the idea of saying that, oh, I don't want to hang out with that person because they're a different skin color than me. I just cared about the character of the person. Like, are you my friend? That's all I cared about. I didn't really care about you look different. So coming from being on the Northwest where I listened to all kind of music, I hung out with all kind of people. I stayed the night at everybody's houses. You know, I grew up with Corey Snyder being my best friend, you being my best friend, Jennifer Schmidt, Carmel. It was just like a Savannah. Like
called them out by their last names too. Ooh.
Oh, everything, yes. But like these people.
So just so y'all know, you're gonna join my channel though, right? Right? The people she just called out. When you see this, call me.
Yes. And all these people to this day are great people. And that's what attracted me to these people, because they're great people. It wasn't ever about, oh, you look like me. Because even though, like, you know, a few of y'all were biracial, then you had just the white ones, then you had just the black, it didn't matter. But definitely since I've left Portland, Oregon, and I've come back to Birmingham, Alabama, it's a difference, because the way that people live their lives, even from something as simple as saying yes ma'am and no ma'am and yes sir and no sir.
That's a big difference.
We don't do that in Portland. Like, you don't hear people saying yes ma'am.
They ask you not to.
Exactly.
I remember coming from Georgia, and my dad, you know, being the military gentleman he is, it was always yes sir, no sir, yes ma'am, no ma'am. And we came to Portland, and everybody's like, do I look like your grandmother? Don't do that.
Right.
We're like offended.
I remember, you remember Miss Robertson when we were at Lincoln Park? That's the first time that I was told that not to use the term yes ma'am and no ma'am to her.
Miss Robinson.
She was like, no, a simple yes or no is okay, but then you come to the South and like it's like against the whole Bible if you say yes or no, and it's like, okay, wait a minute now. But the being here, like, just my views about things and the people I choose to hang out with and the music I listen to or the way I dress or the way I do anything, like, I think sometimes you have to, I find myself reminding people that culturally, like, I was born here, but I wasn't raised here. So some of the things that I've adapted to or adopted has come from a whole different place where people do things a whole lot different. So for me, it's hard for me to be like, you know, just to say, because now I'm in the South, that I don't want to hang out with people of different colors, because I grew up in a very diverse environment. And even though, and I don't know, it's kind of like, you know, how they say, like, you're matched up with the right person. Like, I think I always had the right mother for that, because my mom didn't raise us to be like, oh, you don't play with that person. Or, you know, she wasn't that person. My mom's welcoming to like everybody. She don't care.
We spent a lot of time at your house.
Exactly.
Got stuck to trees together.
Everything. I'm talking about, like, and everybody was allowed to come over. It didn't matter who you were, what color, nothing. It was like everybody came over. So it is hard, like, being here sometimes, and you go places. Like, I remember one night I was at the gas station. This is right after the looting happened here or whatever, and the protesting started. Like, the way this white man looked at me, like I was the devil. And that just made me feel so bad, because I'm like, even though we could argue back and forth and say, oh, I have a right to feel some type of way about your culture because of what was done to my people, I still don't feel that way, because I don't believe in categorizing people.
Right.
I don't believe in saying that, hey, everyone's the same. Like, oh, just because that person's racist, then you're racist too. I don't believe in that, because that's not true. Even though, yeah, I've been around on both sides. I walked in the store and heard white people talking, and they see me and they stop talking. I'm like, continue your conversation. You got a freedom of speech in the other time, so I don't really care what you're talking about or whatever. As long as you ain't putting your hands on me, I'm good with whatever. Because I feel like people are entitled to their own opinions. If I had to choose, like, which one my personality is more like, I would definitely say I'm more on the Northwestern side, just because I do consider myself more liberal. Like, I'm not really conservative. Let's just say that. But I don't at the same time treat people differently that choose to do whatever they choose to do. But this is uncomfortable at times, because, like, now I live in a predominantly white area. Like, most of my neighbors are old white people. And I know people have this stereotype, like, oh, you know, usually they're older races, but I really haven't felt that, you know, from my neighbors. Like, I don't, like, my neighbor across the street, Mr. Neal, he brings me fresh vegetables out of his garden. He speaks every time
Nice.
he sees me. He compliments my yard, like, oh, you do such a good job. And, oh, Victoria, I hear your car is sounding kind of funny. You know, that's, you know, or they're walking by with their little dogs, because they're all my neighbors are retired. That's why I like my community. It ain't because of just the color. I like it because they old and they mind their business and they nosy and they watch their stuff.
I do.
That's why I like it. So yeah, it can be tough, like being here, because I would say that most of my friends on the Northwest, I didn't get racial experiences. Like I didn't have people that, if they felt that way, they never like let me know it or whatever. And it is different being here and you see all the Confederacy, like Confederate flags and
So how do you feel when
t-shirts.
you see those symbols? Because they're symbols. They're, a
Huh?
lot of what we see are symbols. So how do you feel when you see these symbols? Because I don't think people understand that a symbol like the Confederate flag or certain statues
Well,
can really invoke feeling in you.
it
So
does, because you don't know what's behind the symbols. Like, you know, some people take it as far as just being a military thing, you know, or just being that, you know, the South side, the North, whatever. But then you never know, like, you know, you may be a person that support Confederacy, but at the same time, you may not have the same racist beliefs as somebody that doesn't. But then you might have somebody that has that Confederate everything and they really feel that way. You know, like
so it's more like the fear of not knowing what's behind the
exactly.
symbol.
I just don't feel like any single person in this life should walk around and be in fear of someone harming you because of just your skin color. Like if you dislike me because of my character or something that I've done wrong, like, yeah, okay, I get it. You know, I might have wronged you or whatever, but to just dislike me automatically, just strictly based on my skin color, like, I just feel like it's unfair. I really do. I'm actually moving soon and I'm getting this was something that just happened and it was the craziest thing. We end up, me and this guy, it was a older white man. We screamed and screamed and screamed. We passed cuss words, but we ended with a handshake. And what happened was he was putting the floors in my new place. So I went over to see if, because I know that the appliances don't get in until the 25th. So I was like, well, let me go offer him some water and just check the progress of the floors. And I just wanted to see what they were going to look like. So I walk in and of course, like, you know, I didn't go in to have a race conversation with this man about anything. I just want to know if you wanted something cold to drink because it's hot. And so he instantly, like, I mean, just started, he's like, oh, I had to get on to my grandson. And I was like, okay, maybe he's about to share a story that we both can relate to. And I can be like, oh yeah, kids these days, whatever.
Right.
No. He was like, oh, he called himself going down there protesting. So now I'm like, okay, here we go. I don't want to do this with you, sir. I don't, because I am not racist.
Right.
Do I believe that there is racism? I do. But I'm not racist. So I'm like, I don't really want to have this conversation. But he forced me to have to defend myself. And that was very uncomfortable. You know, like he instantly was like, because of course you want to know, if you say he was protesting, he's either on one or two sides. He's either on the Black Lives Matter or, you know, whatever, or he's for the police or whatever. So he, of
Right.
course, let me know that he wasn't down there for the police. He let me know that he didn't want to say it, but he was like, he was down there with the blacks. So of course, me being black, I feel some kind of way. And I'm just like, okay, so I'm like, let's change the subject. Let's not talk about it. So then he kept coming with all kind of insensitive comments. I'm not against anyone feeling whatever you want to feel. But when you're talking to any person, you should use tact regardless. And he literally just would not stop. I mean, he kept saying some of the most ignorant things that are so untrue. Like he even had the nerve to tell me that all black people hate all white people. I said, are you kidding me? But he actually believed that. Like he had horrible experiences and he kept saying, well, this one black man told me. I said, well, I want to apologize on the behalf of all the black race. Since one person gets to speak for all of us on that end, I'm going to speak for all of us on this end. I want to apologize if you felt wrong. So can you apologize for your race for what was done to us? You know, and I'm just like, it was pointless because I went with good intentions and you turned this whole situation into an argument. I'm like, sir, I don't even share the same views as you. We don't share the same views, but there's no reason to sit here and argue and to down another person. You can't base all of every person that's of one color based on one experience with one person. That has nothing to do with the color. That has something to do with the person.
Well, do you feel sometimes though, like I personally sometimes have felt that it really is on this one interaction, especially when you do live in a predominantly white
Oh
neighborhood.
yeah.
I feel like any interaction we're going to have is either going to screw it for the next brown person that walks past you, or you're really going to like be taken back and you're going to enjoy the next interaction or be more open to the next interaction.
Yeah.
I definitely feel that way sometimes, and I really have to dial myself back and think of what I say. But I don't know, sometimes, in me at least, it invokes a certain person. It's not everybody that I feel that way with, but definitely older people sometimes, just
Yeah,
because
I
they're
just don't
older.
like being categorized. I don't like, and it is a hard feeling. Like, I never used to fear like getting pulled over by the police, besides getting a ticket and have to give up some of my money that I don't like to give up. But as far as anything else, like, I never had that fear. But it's like now you don't worry about, because just being a female, a Black female, that just wasn't a worry of mine. Not saying that anything couldn't happen, but like now more, like, it's like becoming more and more evident that it doesn't matter. You know what I'm saying? All that matters is the skin color that you see. Doesn't matter if I'm male, I'm female, if I have a child in the car, if my grandmother's in the car. It doesn't matter. It's just like it's easy to be categorized, and that is a hard feeling. Like, that's a very, very hard feeling, to be categorized as someone else that you're nothing like. Just because we all share the same skin color doesn't mean that we're the same people. You know what I mean? Like, we have different backgrounds. We grew up differently. I grew up in Portland, Oregon, and I came from deep in the South. So you already know, you coming from Georgia, like, you already know, like, this is a whole nother world. Like, some of the stuff that I thought I was going to get away with, my mom was like, girl, I will break your neck. We are not, you not Portland, Oregon, okay? Just like, you were born in Alabama, you will get it.
Oh,
So,
your mom was hilarious. My first hot comb
girl,
experience at your house.
girl, I remember
But,
when I burned my hair out with the hot comb.
well, yeah, I had a whole chunk missing on this side. But this is what I keep telling people: hair grows back. It's okay.
It's not the end of the world, because trust me, I lost mine plenty of times. But yeah.
Yeah, definitely my first experience with the hot comb and hair straightening was at your house. And I remember having it on the stove and you being very clear on it gets really hot. I'm not even lying. Like, when that is red, do not touch it. But I definitely remember having, yeah, kind of the southernness did come out at your house. And your mom would cook all the time and we'd be running around, and it definitely did have the southern feel. But when we were outside, it was just like you were like everybody else.
Exactly.
So it was definitely a cool dynamic. And your parents are very educated people. So the misperception that really bothers me is that I always hear the stereotype that people think Black people aren't educated.
And that disturbed me, because that was one of the things that he actually brought up. He was like, he actually made the comment. He felt free to make the comment that, I'm sorry that y'all were afforded the same opportunities, education, and you didn't take it. And I'm like, but that's an
Let's be clear. Your dad graduated from PSU and your mom's like, everybody's educated at your house. It's not like you guys were just sitting around or any of that. And I remember your dad was always there. I mean, yeah, he had his nose in a book, but I don't ever remember a time that he wasn't around or wasn't there to give you advice or wasn't there to tell us all to get out for a minute so he could take a test or something like that. Like, I've always had a memory of both your parents being around, doing their thing, and always kind of just hanging out.
Right. And
always
just even within my family, like, my uncles, all Black men, were always there. You know what I mean? Like, they raised their families. Like, they weren't like, over here and abandoned. Like, they raised their families. And I think, like, even to this day, just watching, like, even though me and, my dad, we had our little differences or whatever, but at the same time, like, I did admire the fact that he was so driven, like, as far as school. Like, he was an honor student all through college, when he got his degree or whatever.
Mind you, he had 3 kids running around the house from ages
and
like 5th grade all the way down.
Like, they pushed hard so that we could have a better life. And to this day, it's just like my sister. I'm so proud of my sister. She works in labor and delivery at the hospital, and she's back in school.
RNA degree.
And and I'm like, and then my my baby sister, Lord, we're gonna pray for my baby sister. I love her, but she got her little entrepreneur spirit. She does her thing, and it's like, so just to hear people say that, oh, there's no Black fathers in the home, that's a lie. That is a lie. I know plenty, and especially being in the South. That's one thing I can honestly say. Yeah, just like I think if you go to any state, any place, there's gonna be.
I must say, my cousins, they're wonderful dads, and you know what? My dad is too. I talk to him on a daily basis. Like, I'm always harassing my dad, and he's always around giving advice.